Hello everyone. We will start with the definition of double integral. To define double integral of a function f over a domain E, where E is the rectangle AB cross CD. Okay, so suppose f is a bounded function defined on a rectangle which is given by the cross product of two closed intervals AB and CD. So that means if this is closed interval AB and this is closed interval CD, so this is the rectangle that we are considering. Okay, so this is rectangle AB cross CD. Now to define the double integral, the basic thing is you have to partition the edges AB and CD of the rectangle E. So suppose P1 is the partition of closed interval AB and P2 is the partition of closed interval CD, where P1 is the set, ordered set, x I minus 1 xi and dash xl, which is nothing but the end point of the interval AB, and P2 is the partition of closed interval CD, where it is the ordered set yj minus 1 yj and so on yn, which is nothing but the another end point of the closed interval CD, that is D. Okay, so this is the partition of AB. So these are the points x1, x2, x3 and somewhere xi minus 1, xi and so on. And this is the partition of CD. So this is y0, y1, y2 and yj minus 1, yj, and this is nothing but yn. Okay, now the set P, which is given by set of all xy such that x belongs to P1 and y belongs to P2. That means P is the cross product of P1 and P2. Okay, so this set forms a partition of the rectangle E. So P is a partition of rectangle E. Okay, now how we can partition E? So this partition of E can be done by drawing lines through the points of P. Okay, so if we consider the points of AB and points between AB, these points xi's and yj's. Okay, so that order pair xy will be any point here, so that may be a point like this. Okay, so it may be suppose x1 here and suppose this is y2, so that is xi yj, or in general it is x comma y, where x is any point here and y is any point here. Okay, so the lines drawn through the points of P and parallel to the coordinate axis. Okay, so like this. Okay, like this. So these lines will divide the rectangle E into how many sub-rectangles? So these are L number of points, these are N number of points. Okay, so the rectangle E will be divided into L into N sub-rectangles. Okay, L into N sub-rectangles, Eij. Okay, and where Eij, so if this is xi minus 1 and this is xi, this sub-interval, as all of you know, the partition of any interval divides the interval into sub-intervals, maybe of equal length or maybe of unequal length. Okay, so Eij is the sub-rectangle which consists of points set of order pair xy. Suppose this is the rectangle Eij. So this sub-interval is xi minus 1 xi, and this sub-interval here will be yj minus 1 and yj. yj minus 1. This will be yj, suppose. Okay, so we are considering this such that x belongs to closed interval xi minus 1 xi subinterval, and y belongs to closed interval yj minus 1 yj, and this is the any ijth subrectangle. So this is true for all I equal to 1 to L and j equal to 1 to n. Okay, so this is how I have partitioned the rectangle E into L into n number of subrectangles. Okay, now the function f we have defined is bounded on whole of E. Okay, one thing we will do immediately. So this is the subrectangle EIJ. So what I will do is I will define immediately its area. So what will be area of EIJ? Area of EIJ will be length into width. So it is nothing but xi minus 1 into yj minus 1, and this is true for all I and j. So this is true for all subrectangles. Okay, so this is how I define the area of ijth subrectangle EIJ, that is delta ij, which will require in the due discussion. Okay, now as f is bounded on whole of E, so f will be bounded on each of the subrectangle. Okay, EIJ. So what we will do is we will define now, as this is a bounded function, so it will have infimum and supremum, okay, on whole of E also and on each of the subrectangle also. Okay, so what I will do is now, suppose M is the infimum of f of xy, that is f on such that xy belongs to E. So this is the infimum of f on whole of E. Suppose capital M is supremum of f on whole of E. Okay, now what we will do is we will now define the infimum of f on EIJ, ijth subrectangle, and similarly we will define the supremum of f on the subrectangle EIJ. Okay, so this is how we define infimum of f on whole of E, supremum of f on whole of E, and Mij and small mij and capital Mij being infimum of f on EIJ and EIJ. Okay, so now these are, as f is a real valued function, okay, its values will be, that means its values are real numbers. Okay, so infimum of f or supremum of f either on E or EIJ will also be real numbers. So these are 4 different real numbers. Okay, now what is the relation between these numbers? So these are 4 different numbers. Okay, so this is small m is infimum of f on whole of E, and this is infimum of f on some small part of E. Okay, so m will be obviously less than or equal to Mij, because this is the smallest on whole of E and this is the smallest on a part of it. Okay, so m will be less than or equal to Mij, and as this is infimum and this is supremum, so always infimum less than or equal to supremum, and this is the supremum on a small part and this is supremum on whole of the rectangle, so this will be less than or equal to capital M. Okay, so this is, suppose I call this as equation number 1. So these 4 numbers have this type of relationship. Okay, so is it clear to everybody? So I have considered a rectangle E as AB cross CD. F has a bounded function defined on the rectangle E. I have considered the partitions of the edges AB and CD. So P1 be partition of AB and P2 be the partition of CD. Then I have considered their cross product, okay, Cartesian product of these two, that is P, and which divides the rectangle E into L into n number of subrectangles, and these subrectangles or this set E is partitioned into these subrectangles by drawing the lines parallel to the coordinate axis through the points of the partition P. Okay, now as And similarly, we have taken delta ij being the area of the ij subrectangle Eij. Okay, as f is bounded on whole of E, it will be bounded on each of its part, that is each of the subrectangle. Okay, so suppose M is the infimum of f on whole of E, capital M is the supremum of f on whole of E, Mij is the infimum of f on Eij, and capital Mij will be the supremum of f on Eij. Okay, as these are the real numbers, okay, so they will satisfy this relation. Okay, so small m less than equal to Mij infimum less than equal to supremum, and supremum on a particular part will be less than equal to supremum on whole of the rectangle E. Okay, now we will proceed further. Now what we will do is, now we define the Riemann sum of function f on whole of E, okay, with respect to the partition. Okay, so remember one thing, that given a set, it may have infinitely many partitions, and we have considered one of the partition P here. Okay, so with respect to this partition, I am going to consider now Riemann sum. So define the Riemann sum of f with respect to partition P as Fp is equal to summation, double summation f of, suppose, Tij into delta ij. I runs from 1 to L and j runs from 1 to n. Okay, so this is how we define the Riemann sum of a function f with respect to a particular partition P. Okay, so now this is where, what is Tij? Tij is any point which belongs to Eij. So Tij may be xi yj, order pair xi yj. Okay, Tij may be any point like this. Okay, xi, any point from this, any point here, anywhere here. Okay, so Tij is a point on Eij. Okay, so and we consider here Tij as any arbitrary point. So this is value of the function f at any arbitrary point of Eij. Okay, so value of the function f at any arbitrary point of Eij into its area of the subrectangle, and this is sum of value of the function. And remember one thing, value of the function will always give you, when you deal with the graph of a function as y is equal to f of x, always f of x gives you the y coordinate. Okay, so that is for any corresponding x, it gives you height. Okay, so similarly here, value of the function f at any point Tij, okay, into the area of subrectangle. Okay, so this is the value of the function at any point, but just we have defined value of the function f, okay, at any point Eij, of any point Eij, okay, which is the infimum. Okay, so small mij is infimum value of the function at any point of Eij. Similarly, capital Mij is also a supremum value of the function f at any point of Eij. So if we use these values instead of this any arbitrary values of the function, so what we get is the resulting such type of sums, they are called as Riemann-Loyer sum, Riemann-Loyer sum, denoted by this notation. Okay, and which is immediately defined as, okay, Riemann-Loyer sum is equal to, so same summation, but instead of taking any value, we take the value of the function as infimum value on Eij. Okay, so that means this is, okay, again here I runs from 1 to L and j runs from 1 to n. So this is how we define the Riemann-Loyer sum of a function f on Riemann sum with respect to partition P. And similarly we define the upper sum of the function f, okay, denoted by this Okay, where we consider the, instead of considering infimum value, if you consider the supremum value of the function f1 eij, then it becomes capital Mij into delta ij. I runs from 1 to L and j runs from 1 to n. Okay, so this is how we define Riemann lower sum and Riemann upper sum for the function f with respect to any arbitrary partition P. You know that this rectangle E may have infinitely many partitions. Okay, so with respect to each partition you will get these two numbers. Corresponding to each partition you will get a Riemann lower sum and a Riemann upper sum. Okay, now see, if we multiply this inequality 1 now, inequality 1 by delta ij, okay, I will multiply this inequality 1 by delta ij, and what I will do is I will take the summation over I and j. So what I will get is summation m. So I have multiplied this by delta ij and I have taken summation over I and over j. Okay, so I will not write all the summations, only remember first summation is for j and this summation is for I. Okay, so this is what is Mij delta ij, okay, less than or equal to summation capital Mij delta ij less than or equal to double summation, this is capital M delta ij. This is again I is equal to 1 to L, remember, and j is equal to 1 to n. Okay, now just see these two. What are these two? This is nothing but Riemann lower sum and this is nothing but Riemann upper sum. Okay, so finally what we will write is, and this small m has nothing to do with this summation, and what is this delta ij? Delta ij is, so now see, if I take this outside, for example, suppose it is here, so what you get is, this is area of any IZ subrectangle. Okay, so, and if you go on considering, so this means if this is the rectangle and these are the subrectangles. Okay, so if you go on varying if you go on varying I means you are considering all these subrectangles, okay, if you go on varying j, so what you will get is all these rectangles, okay, and their areas. Okay, so this will be at the end sum of the areas of all these subrectangles, and you know what is the, and that will give you total area of the rectangle, and it is nothing but yes, b minus a into d minus c. Okay, so that is length into width, that is because your rectangle is AB cross CD. Okay, so this is less than or equal to, now this is nothing but the lower sum. Okay, this is nothing but the upper sum. Okay, and again this is, take m outside because it has nothing to do with the summation, and again sum of the areas of all subrectangle will be the total area of the rectangle. So this is what I get is the relation between lower sum, upper sum and all these numbers. Okay, now just you observe, what is this? This is any lower sum of the function f with respect to a partition P, upper sum f with respect to any partition P, and as I have told you, there can be infinitely many partitions for a function, for a rectangle E. Okay, so each of the lower sum and each of the upper sum will lie between these two finite numbers, because area of the rectangle is a finite number and this is the infimum value of the function, again it is a finite number. So this is a finite number, this is a finite number, area into some finite value of the function, because it is a bounded function, so it's supremum value. Okay, so two finite numbers, so every lower sum and upper sum of the function f with respect to any partition, whatever may be the partition, always lies between these two numbers. Okay, I will call this as, suppose, equation number 2 now. Okay, now I will consider, so as there can be infinitely many partitions for the rectangle E, so I will consider now SL as set of all lower sums such that SFP such that P is a partition of E. SU, set of all upper sums of F, okay, with respect to any partition. P is a partition of E, okay. So thus I have two sets, collections or sets, set of all lower sums, set of all upper sums, and remember each lower sum lies between these two numbers. I am considering all lower sums which lie between these two numbers. Okay, so every member of this set lies between these two. Okay, so definitely this set of all lower sums SL and this set SU of all upper sums is bounded, because every member of this either of the set lies between these two definite numbers. These two are definite numbers. Okay, so this set SL and SU both are bounded sets, and hence as they are bounded, you can define infimum and supremum of SL. You can define infimum and supremum of SU. Okay. So what I will do is now I will define now. I will consider supremum of SL, set of all lower sums. Now just see this is a lower sum. If I consider supremum of this set, means this set consists of infinitely many lower sums. Suppose this P dash, P double dash, P triple dash, and so on. These are the partitions of E. Okay. Then I will have lower sum SF P dash, SF P double dash, SF P triple dash, and so on. So all these are lower sum, and out of all these lower sums, we are choosing the largest one. Okay, supremum. Okay, so as this is supremum of SL, okay, that means largest lower sum. So I am choosing here largest lower sum amongst all the lower sums, because corresponding to each partition you will have a lower sum, and we select largest lower sum. Okay, and I call it as largest lower sum as say IL, or I may say largest lower sum, okay, of F with respect to any partition, arbitrary partition. Okay, and this largest lower sum is called as lower double integral of F over rectangle E. Okay, and it is denoted by this lower sum of F. Either it is denoted by this notation or it is denoted by this notation. Okay, so supremum SL, that is largest lower sum, denoted by any of the notations, is called as lower double integral of function F over rectangle E. Similarly, smallest upper sum, okay, see, these definitions have equivalence with definition of Riemann integral, lower double integral, lower integral, or upper integral in case of a function of a single variable. And there you have learnt what is the largest lower sum and what is the smallest upper sum. That is nothing but lower integral and upper integral. Same concept we are using here. Okay, so the smallest upper sum, what is the name for smallest upper sum? That is infimum SU. SU is the set of all upper sums, and you are choosing the smallest one. So infimum SU, that means smallest upper sum, okay, denoted by this notation IU, or upper sum, upper integral, upper lower integral, okay, and it is denoted by this notation, okay, FDA. Okay, so the smallest upper sum is called as upper double integral of F over E, and these are the notations, either it is denoted by U of F or I of U or infimum SU, or in the form of notation of double integral like this. Okay, so this is the lower integral and this is the upper double integral of F. Okay, now from inequality 2, this is any lower sum, this is the largest lower sum, and we know all the lower sums lie between these two numbers. So definitely the largest lower sum will also lie between these two numbers, and similarly every upper sum lies between these two numbers. Therefore the smallest upper sum will also lie between these two numbers, and you know very well every lower sum is always less than or equal to upper sum. Okay, so that lower integral will be less than or equal to upper integral. So from inequality 2, therefore inequality 2 implies, what does it will imply? Yes, small m into b minus a into d minus c less than or equal to every lower sum, therefore even largest lower sum, and that is what is this double integral lower integral f dx dy will be less than or equal to the corresponding upper double integral. So that is f dx dy, and it is less than or equal to capital M into b minus a into d minus c. Okay, suppose this is my equation number 3. Okay, inequality 3. So thus every lower integral and upper integral lies between these two numbers. Okay, is it clear to everybody? So what I did is I have defined the largest lower sum, smallest upper sum, okay, and then the lower double integral, largest lower sum as lower double integral, and the smallest upper sum as upper double integral. Okay, and using this inequality 2, what I have written is this. Okay, so lower double integral and upper double integral, they lie between these two numbers. Okay, now come to the last part. Now if these two, so largest lower sum and smallest upper sum, which we call as lower double integral and upper double integral, okay, so if these two are equal, now we have this inequality 3 where lower integral and upper integral of f lies between these two numbers. Okay, now if, see, you will get these two numbers. Okay, so as the functions are real valued and their integral you will get as two real numbers. If, okay, so if RL is equal to IU means lower integral is equal to upper integral, or we also denote it by lower integral of f and upper integral of f, or you may write in terms of these notations of double integral as, okay, so double integral, lower integral of f over e with respect to x and y. If these two are equal, okay, then, so see once again what I am telling, if lower integral is equal to upper integral, all these are the different notations, if they are equal, okay, then their common value is called as double integral, double Riemann integral of f over rectangle E, or over a rectangle AB cross CD. Okay, and it is denoted by this notation, double integral of f over E with respect to x and with respect to y. Okay, so that is double integral of f over E with respect to x and y is nothing but this. Okay, okay, so if lower integral is equal to double integral, common value is called as Riemann double integral and is denoted by this notation. Okay, so this is how we write it. Common value of these two is this, and it is called as Riemann double integral of f over the rectangle E. Okay, now from inequality 3, what you know is lower integral less than or equal to double integral, upper double integral, and they lie between these two numbers. But if they are equal, then this is nothing but this double integral of f over E. Okay, so what we get is, as a result of this, what we get is m into b minus a into d minus c less than or equal to this double integral of f over E, and it lies between m into b minus a into d minus c. Thus, the double integral of a function, bounded function defined on a rectangle E, always lies between these two numbers. Okay, so this is how we prove that if f is a bounded function defined on real valued function defined on a rectangle E, then its integral over E, double integral over E, always lies between these two finite numbers. Okay, so this is all about the definition of double integral of a bounded function f defined on a rectangle E and its property. Okay, thank you very much.